Well, good morning, everyone. Make sure my volume's up. Nope. There it is. Well, anyway, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 27th day of February 2020. Well, normally, of course, we'd only have one more day, but we have two, given that this is leap year. So it'd be fun to do I don't know if I've done the astrology yet for that day. I put up a bunch of them so I wouldn't have to copy and paste it all over to the blog, do everything I have to do in case I had jury duty this week. But so far I haven't. So hopefully I don't have to do this tomorrow, so I won't have to worry about getting ready or anything tonight if that's the case, if I get called in tomorrow, but I doubt it. I just have a funny feeling, with the coronavirus deal going around. I think that I would hope anyway that anything that can wait, maybe does, because, anytime you come into an enclosed area, I mean, you're in a little incubator, aren't you, for disease to take hold. So yeah, I mean, I hope that, people just don't have to go to court for a while, and then we can eliminate one place where people can spread the contagion. So anyway, let's see. So the astrology is for 8 o'clock this morning. At least as far as this goes. When the correspondences go up on the blog, it'll be for noon. I always do that one for noon. Mercury's still in retrograde, of course. Again, I'm stressing allow the interactions and perceptions to loosen. We tend to hang on to perceptions, and sometimes we don't stop to think that maybe we're wrong. And so, we might have, misinterpreted something. So allow that to loosen and see how you feel at the end. Maybe you might want to reconnect with somebody that you're estranged from. Maybe some new insights have come into play. I think you're going to see that here in today's astrology. The other thing that's in retrograde that I have not mentioned, I think I mentioned it briefly once, Juno is also in retrograde. Juno's about our relationships with others. And so with Juno in retrograde, it gives us a chance to rethink all of it. How we communicate, the type of partner we choose. Typically, we're talking marriage here, but and right now Juno's in Libra, so you're going to want someone to be communicative, and maybe they're not. Maybe they're not talking to you. Maybe they have trouble talking to you. And so right now, if you're sort of like that and you have trouble communicating with your partner, this is a time to really take a look at that and see what woundings are involved in that sort of thing. And you'll see that later on here in the chart when we get to Chiron. But anyway, just keep in mind, it's not just Mercury, it's Juno as well. And so, maybe if you can let go of some of the perceptions you have about one thing or another, whatever it is, then maybe you can start to see some movement on the relationship front, especially if things have been stagnant or if there's been some conflict of late. Perhaps it's just a problem of perception. But how we interact or connect with others is the underlying energy right now, particularly with both of those planets in retrograde. Moon is still first house Aries. Again, patience is required, even though you may feel a lot of energy today, other people might not. Square Pluto, we're going to see some Pluto aspects here throughout this astrological part here. Lots of things happening. Square Pluto with the moon, intense feelings arise. Observe them, figure out what event might have precipitated it, whatever you're feeling. There may have been a particular event that you just don't remember or you didn't realize. Again, let go of some of the perceptions of things to sort of reach for that, see if that can come up for you. Don't do anything, though. Don't react or respond until you feel calm. And if that's not, for another 6 months, then it's not for another 6 months, all right? Just don't react right now. The outcome may depend on what you do. So if you do something that keeps the door closed, that's not what you want. So Sun still 12th house Pisces, self-reflection, reassessment. Doors open to new possibilities, though. The semi-square with Venus is still in effect. You feel unsupported toward achieving goals by others. Maybe they're just hesitant to get on board right now. Maybe it's the way that you're expressing it. maybe you haven't explained it well enough, or it could just be that they're in their own space right now and they're not ready to be in yours, and so they're having their own issues, and so you could use that time instead of getting into a pity party about it. You could use that time for basically to continue to prepare and to reassess and take another look and make sure that you're presenting it in a way that's the best, that can be the most, agreeable to other people. Sextile Mars, between the Sun and the Mars, solutions are found and things progress, but a lot of energy today. There's a semi-square with Pluto again, another deal with Pluto, another aspect, high energy, but avoid conflict again. Channel whatever excess energy or frustration or whatever you might be feeling today. If things are not going exactly the way you want them to, try to channel that into some physical activity. Take a walk and make it a brisk one, something. But just don't channel it into this, right? Mercury, 12th house Pisces, intuition still high, inward focus still warranted. Semi-square with Juno. Again, communication issues. One may talk over the other. For example, if your partner is a strong personality, if you're both strong personalities, if you're, say, an air or fire signs, you're going to energize each other, but at the same time, there's going to be a strange, weird competition that typically the fire sign will not acknowledge. The air sign, on the other hand, is all too aware of this. So there can be some issues that way. All the air sign is wanting is equal time. All the fire sign is wanting is to be the leader and to control everything. So you can see where that can be a problem. If it's an earth sign or a water sign and you're dealing with a fire sign, then you can be bowled over by that person. So you can see where how we interact with our partners is important. And with Juno in retrograde, we just need to rethink some of it. Trine the north and sextile the south nodes, listen to the underlying message. That's still in effect. Venus is still in the first house of Aries. Improve your appearance, put your best foot forward. Again, square Pluto. I told you, avoid conflict with others, but speak your truth, okay? Here's the thing. Some of what may have been happening throughout whatever this partnership issue that's been underlying things of late, sometimes we don't feel like we can speak truth to power or speak truth to the situation. Let's rephrase it. Let's not call it speaking truth to power. It's speaking truth to situation. So you don't feel you have a voice. You don't feel that the voice is going to be heard. Maybe you've tried and you've seen that your voice is not heard, that you've been dismissed. Okay, that's kind of what we're talking about here. You need to remain honest. Okay, if you need to say something, say it. Do it with quiet resolve. Do it with respect. Do it with, this is just how I feel about this. Use a lot of I statements. Don't do the you, because that puts people on the defense. Own your feelings. In other words, I feel this way. I've been feeling this way. I've been reluctant to talk about this because I don't feel listened to. This other thing happened, and because of that, I kind of reacted in a way that I don't feel listened to, and so I haven't been real willing to talk. Use those kinds of statements, but don't not call attention to what the problem is as you see it. If it's the other person, it's the other person. It is what it is. Okay. If it's not you, then, maybe you're feeling the way you are for a reason, because you've been dismissed and your views are not listened to. But you need to, at this point, once you do that, step back and let them process it. Don't tell them how to feel about it. Don't tell them what you expect. Just say, this is how I feel. And if you have to, just walk away. Just walk away and let them sit with all of it, with their new awareness. If they choose to think about it, at some point they're going to, and maybe you might see a change if you don't insert yourself into it. You just let your feelings be known. You stand in your own truth, and then you step back and just let people be. If this is a relationship that needs to continue, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to come back and do the right thing. I hope. Mars still 10th house Capricorn, so you could have a change in career or perhaps a change in career focus where you are. Something could change. Maybe you get a promotion or something. That's been in the works for a while. Since the end of December, really. Jupiter 10th house Capricorn also there. Reassess how you spend your time at work. That could impact you getting something better there. Moving into a better position. Make your plans very carefully for the future. Saturn, 11th house Capricorn. Again, we're still we're in this reassessment of relationship values. What do you value within your relationships? What's important to you? Some of that's going to change. You might embark on new relationships during this time, but others may end because perhaps they weren't really based on anything that was tangible or really sustainable. And so maybe it was just a temporary relationship, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that conflict tears you apart. It just means that it was temporary. People come in and out of our lives all the time. Uranus, same place, Taurus, first house. Open to change and new experiences, still semi-square with Neptune, although it's lessened to a medium influence, but we are still guarding against deception, although I think that a lot of that's being revealed. The truth of the matter is being revealed right now to people. Whether collectively what we're dealing with in the country right now, with the ineptitude of the people in power, well, I think that that's pretty well becoming, I mean, it's sad that it takes things like this, doesn't it? For people to wake up about what's going on, but I think that's what's going on. Let's see again, allow intuition and higher self to guide. When something isn't right, listen to that. Don't be influenced by others to say, oh, no, it's okay. No, they're drunk on the Kool-Aid. Don't you be. Trine South Node, change happens easily. New directions are taken right now, and your true purpose may be revealed. So again, even though we have this retrograde with both Mercury and Juno, and it's all surrounding communication and interactions and relationships and partnerships, that's the underlying energy. The doorway is there to go into a better direction, and it's beckoning us, strongly. Come on, let's go. Let's get out of this mess. Let's get into something better. That's the energetic momentum right now. So, you might struggle against it, but we're going there. Might as well get on board. 12th house Pisces for Neptune. Inner focus, again, maintain a spiritual focus. Maybe get into some meditation if you're not used to doing that. But right now, you need to go within and discover what truly supports and sustains you. Again, it's going to be surrounding partnerships. All right, and interactions with them. Chiron, 12th house Aries, still time for healing, but it's not going to be easy. Trust me, if you have been upset and you need to speak truth to power or truth to the situation, and you have to walk away after doing so to let people stew in their own whatever, that's not going to be easy. All right, you're going to want to force the issue and resolve things. And I'm telling you, this is not the time to do that. It might resolve quickly, but it's not going to be because you've demanded it or you're expecting it. It's when people see that you're willing to walk away here to preserve your own dignity, that for some people, that's going to be enough to make them take a second look at things. And that's what we need to be doing today. And for the foreseeable future is taking a second look, both within and without. Face the fears. Life is changing now. There's a square with the north and south node of the moon with Chiron. Everything is changing now. You've got to face your fears and move on into a new purpose here, with or without those partners. And as hard as that is, that may be what happens here. But realistically, I don't think so. I think it's just that we need a different perception about things. So, in any event, let's go ahead and get started. I'm taking extra time, as I've said, with the astrology because I think that there's so much there right now. Anytime you've got things in Mercury retrograde, anytime you've got planets in retrograde, there's a restructuring taking place. There's a loosening of bonds. There's a loosening of perception about whatever it is that it's talking about, and we have been in this mode for some time where we're having to reassess perceptions of things, what we believe in, what we're choosing to believe, who we're choosing to believe. We've made some mistakes here, and now we need to reset the course. All right, and that's what this is. You know, retrogrades are very much about resetting the table, and so do it. So we'll go ahead and we'll take our first 3 cards, though, and hopefully that's all we need today. We have a 3 of Pentacles. So again, foundation, mind, body, spirit alignment. Things are changing, and they have to. All right, we're in a 22 year. It's the cosmic builder. Profound soul level change, soul level improvement. We've, in other words, Goddess is saying, you guys have messed around long enough, and now I guess I'm just going to have to come in and settle things. And that's what I think is happening. Might be chaotic, but I don't know. It's got to happen. Here we have the 9 of Wands, uneasy truce. You see how this is, it's been weirdly following the astrology, the cards have. And I think with everything in synchronicity right now, we cannot afford to ignore the message of what's happening astrologically to us, or to us, influencing us. Nothing happens to us. We only let that happen. It might influence, we might experience it, but that doesn't mean anything has to happen to us. I think that that's the problem. I think that we view things that way. Queen of Cups. I love the queens. But I think that that's how we view things that happen in life. This has happened to us. We don't necessarily understand our own involvement in it. And sometimes we don't have any. We're just there. You know, like when government does something that impacts us or something, or just some, or again, we have a virus that comes in and happens to us, you know. So there's some things we can do, you know, to try to offset it, but there's only so much sometimes we can do. Sometimes things just happen and we've got to deal with them. But I think that we're going to start with the Queen here today, and I think that we're going to talk about the power of reflection. Cups is the water element, and you can see her sitting there holding a gorgeous, beautiful cup, a beautiful chalice. It's, if you look at some of the, I wonder if I have that in here. Oh, no, oops, crash, I don't. I was going to show you guys that. I was going to get the Solabusca Tarot out. It has those type of chalices, and they're called something else, and of course I can't remember what it's called. So anyway, I was hoping they were right here handy, but they're not. They're in the other room. But here we see she's sitting right next to the water's edge, and you can see her cloak almost reflects the type of it almost looks like an extension of the pebbles down below her, the river rock, or the rock you find, the round, you know, smooth stones you find near the water's edge. And it's almost like it just sort of becomes the cloak that she's wearing, doesn't it? But the Queen of Cups is all about emotion. She's the empath. She's the natural witch. She is somebody that has the greater awareness and guides the king from that standpoint. The king really can't do anything without the queen, just like the emperor can't do anything without the empress. The structure comes from the woman. It doesn't come from the man. I realize that that's probably anathema to some, but especially men, and to the patriarchy, but that's how that got started. We got confused as to, you know, and the male individual took over and decided that was the right thing. So the egalitarian way of living, you know, yeah, maybe they went out and did certain things and the women did other things, but still, you know, there was reciprocity, there was shared purpose, there was shared endeavor. And then at some point, that all changed to where it was a male-dominated experience, and it's gone downhill ever since, right? We have what we have today. So the worst example of all of that is what we have going today. And so what we need to do, again, with so much 12th house Pisces going on, whether it's Aries or Pisces, it doesn't matter. 11th house, you were in that fourth quadrant, so the 10th, 11th house. So we're talking things that are happening in career and social standing, or career standing, basically, to where people know who you are and actually know who you are, the kind of person that you are, and how that impacts your ability to interact with others in the world in a transactional way. And then you have, the 11th house is about relationships, and then the 12th house is about endings and reflection and things that are hidden. And so you can see where this is the time to discover things. And that's what the Queen is really doing. She's reflecting on the emotions that are happening. The water in back of her doesn't appear choppy. So right now she's just really in reflection, and that's what I think the guiding principle is going to be today. We might need a fourth card, but I don't know. But right now, I'm gonna turn these. I'm gonna put the 9 first and the 3 last. Right there, we have a pattern of a magnification of 3. But I think that we want to move in a better direction. So let's go ahead and look at the 9 first. 9s are about endings and completion. Here, this guy's clearly been in some kind of battle of wills. He's on the other side of it, looking back with a furtive glance like, okay, I don't know, his head's bandaged. Maybe it's over. This could be support behind him, but because there's a demarcation line, I'm never sure about that. You see the demarcation line here? We see that in tarot, in some of the cards, not all of them. But it's drawn deliberately. And because it's drawn deliberately, that tells me that was then, this is now. And so the situation, whatever the battle of wills was, whether it was an internal struggle or a struggle with other people, it's over for now. And maybe we've gotten past it. But we're still kind of looking back because we're not completely sure. So it's over, but is it? Maybe. But if the Queen is reflecting on that struggle, she knows that the answer is found in harmony with others. We see 3 pentacles up at the top there in the archway. We see the rose in the center. Again, mind, body, spirit alignment. You see the cross in the center of the rose. And we've talked about that in the past here. I'm going to talk about it again really briefly before we get to the rune and everything. I'm going to use my paper here that I draw all that stuff on. And I just want to show you how I view the cross here. This is not a religious cross. So structurally, this is how I view the cross. We have spirit at the top. We have ego at the bottom, not in the center. The center line is the abyss. The center line is where we make that choice. Are we going to be service to self, service to others? It's where we bring in the balance of the masculine, feminine, resonance. How are we going to be more active principle or passive principle, that sort of thing. But that line is the abyss. The rest of this is form, with ego at the very bottom. Now, if we remain and hover or either at that line or above, then spirit's informing our experience here. If we don't, then ego, it's ego's deal. And that's where we get into problems. That's when things like this arise. Instead of going forward in shared purpose with others, we have to argue about it. And a lot of the time, you stand back and you wonder, okay, what was the argument about? We don't even know what the argument's about, because you got 10 people in the room, 10 people are going to have 10 different reasons for what the argument's about. So if we can't even get onto the same page as to what the issue is, then ego is what's taking over. And spirit's not informing anything. We don't have the ability to see the bigger picture. And that's the thing about the queen. When they're ill-dignified, of course, they're going to be self-centered, but when they're not, then they're going to be able to see the bigger picture and be able to help inform all of us as to what that is. And what the queen is suggesting is we need to get reflective today, which is exactly what the astrology is suggesting. If you speak truth to power, speak it, stand there, it either works or you walk away. But you're not willing to get into any more conversation, until someone acknowledges the truth of what you feel. Because how many times are you treated just like a speed bump in life where they just go over you, right on past how you feel about something? And so this may be the time where, it may be, this is the time where if you expect to remake your life, remake the world, take part in this 22 energy, you have to be willing to stand there, speak your piece, and then be willing to walk away without somebody trying to suggest to you, oh, no, that's not that big of a deal, right? Making you feel like that when, yeah, it is a big deal. How you feel about something is a big deal. It matters. You might end up being mistaken, but so what? What you feel matters, and it should never be dismissed. And yet, that's what a lot of the time happens. I know it happens to me all the time, and it's terrible. Because it's like, well, no. You might disagree with me, but what I have to say matters, at least to me. So if you're feeling like that, and you feel like your voice has been suppressed all this time, now it's time to say something. But you also have to be willing to walk away and let them stew in it, because you never know what's going to happen. Once they do that, maybe this is the stewing effect, where you're either standing in your own power and the rest of them are stewing on the other side, or this is what the information you've given this guy to think about. He's got to think about it now, the other person involved or the persons involved. So again, once you do that, though, the goal is mind, body, spirit alignment, maintaining your own, number one. That has to come first. But once you do that, and you stand in your own quiet power, then you don't know. All of a sudden, things could settle out and everyone else does the same. And then pretty soon, you're able to have the conversation you need to have. And pretty soon, whatever it was no longer is. And you can get back to business, with other people. Here you have two women that have come by. They're admiring this guy's work. So a better transaction with others, a better interaction with others can come into play. But you see, he just notices them. He's busy. We all need to get busy in our own thing. Say what you need to say. It's like when it's funny because when assertiveness training came to be, it started with transactional analysis back in the 70s. I was in college in the 70s. I was getting a degree in psychology. So, you had the people that were the TA people, and then you had the traditional psychology people. I was on the traditional psychology side. And so we always looked at the TA people, that this was just, silly. And clearly you need therapy, right? Not just figure out how you're transacting with others. But they were a little smarter than we thought. And that's really what this is about, how we interact with others. Now, maybe it was done in a really strange way, where you're talking about I feel and using a lot of I statements. But when the assertiveness training started to happen, because people were taking that transactional analysis information and then becoming quite aggressive with it, really standing in their own power, right? Problem was it was off-putting, and so whatever they were trying to achieve, they weren't. So then we all had to learn how to let go of the aggressive side of self and learn quiet assertion. And the typical one is when you have to take something back and they don't want to take it back at a store. And you ask to speak to the manager. Well, may I speak to the manager, please, then? I appreciate that you can't do this. I accept that. I would like to speak to the manager then. We'll just, we'll talk to that person, see if I can get somewhere there. And then you just say, this is why I think you need to take this back. And if they don't do it, then they don't do it. You don't throw a tantrum. You don't get aggressive. You stay assertive. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If that's the end of the road, it's the end of the road. Maybe you can go sue them. Maybe it's not. See, there are steps. And if you stay in control, you can see what those steps are. And what I think that the Pluto involvement today is saying, walk away. Just walk away. Say what you need to say and walk away if you have to. If the conversation cannot continue in that healing modality, walk away. Will development. Isa, the 11th root of the Elder Futhark, 11 energy, which is a master number for illumination and enlightenment. But it's also about ego control. And you're going to need to have that when you speak truth to power and you walk away. What ego control is that, right? Spirit is controlling that ego at that moment, and that's what Isa's telling us to do. Get out of the ego, get out of the reaction, get into the observation and the creation aspect of self. Allow Spirit to inform all of this, and then if you do have to speak truth to power or truth to a situation, and you do need to walk away and let it settle, let it gel, you're going to have the ability to do that because ego is not doing it. It's coming from Spirit. Because what you do by refusing to control the outcome of it, by simply saying, this is how I feel, you're allowing for whatever those other people or that other person that's involved here, you're allowing for whatever theme that they chose coming into form to play out. Maybe they chose estrangement from people they love. Maybe they chose conflict in an interaction setting, so like at work. Maybe this was someone who is always going to cause trouble at work because they're playing out that drama. Perhaps they were the ones who were victims in another experience, another life experience. And maybe they're trying to see the other side of that coin. Because when you have one, you have the other, and it's part of a whole experience. It's not an either or, as much as it seems like, well, I'm not like that. Well, you might have been. And now maybe you're just experiencing the other side of that. Maybe if you are somewhat of a victim right now, if things continually happen to you, maybe you're exploring what it is to be a victim and how that feels. Maybe you've been an oppressor in another life situation, life experience. And so now you're seeing the other side of that. You're experiencing the wholeness of that type of an experience. So when you have the ability to think from Spirit and to observe and to just say, okay, this is my experience, this is what's going on with me in this, I got to go now, I got things to do. So think about it if you want to. If not, maybe we'll talk again, maybe we won't, but I'm going to go now. Allowing people to make their own choices, even if it's something that's truly upsetting to you, even if it's causing you great, and profound sadness, this may be something that they need to experience. And as hard as it is, you need to employ the Isa within to let that happen. That's the other part here. When we're talking about going within and taking a look at what our feelings are and our emotions are, we have to understand that they're our emotions. They're based on the perceptions that we have. We saw something as upsetting. It could be that no one else does, that no one else does, and that it's simply our perception that's leading us there. I think that is this a missio? No. Oh, well, I'm looking at the reading for this next time, for this next month. If I could look at the actual cheat sheet. No. Is it a missio? No, it's acquisitio. It's the opposite. So we have loss and we have gain. Acquisitio is gain. Emissio is loss. But what we have is we have passive influences for fire and water and active influences for air and earth. So you have some balanced energy exchange here at least. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, what are we gaining out of all of this? If we align in our own source presence, if we move from that standpoint, if we react from that standpoint, what do we stand to gain? Well, you know, you might not gain the outcome that you want, you know, but you will have allowed your soul to see things in a broader perspective. And maybe you can find some inner peace when you know that maybe this isn't so much about you in this situation that you're having to process these feelings, this event that's happened or whatever that's taken you to where you are, that it may not simply be just about you, that it's about the other person and the needs that they have. And as confounding as it might seem, and as difficult as it might be to process all of it, we all have to understand that we're each on our own path here. We're each here to experience our own thing, basically. And we do that together, and how we come out of it, you know, in one piece, I don't know. I mean, clearly, how do we even do that? If we're all in disparate, you know, how do we go forward in shared experience? Well, we do, because we allow spirit to control that perception. And so then it just becomes the experience, and you don't judge it in either way. It's just something to experience. You can decide whether you want to continue it or you don't, but I assure you that's really all this is. We get here, we end up, you know, down at the bottom of this cross, way down at the bottom. And then everything happens to us instead of, you know, everything becomes grievance based. We become victim based. The ego controls everything. And spirit is just something we have to work ourselves back to. It's like, no. Spirit controls all of this. I wouldn't be talking if my spirit wasn't focusing into this form at every possible second. Once it stops, the body's gone. It dies. So it's a constant thing. It's nothing we work ourselves back to. We just need to remember who we are as spirit, not as these egos, not as the body. It's all temporary. Trust me. You see how that changes. I'm 62. Trust me, things have changed. So nothing stays the same. So if the body alone and aging alone doesn't tell you that nothing is permanent, I don't know what should. Nothing's going to ever tell you that. So in any event, thank you so much for watching and for being here this week. Lots of things are going to go up on the blog. That we're coming up on the 1st of next month. So monthly tarot, monthly geomancy, weekly Rune and Moon will go up. I have the newsletter's going to come out. I've got it almost done. And they'll look for some things in that. Herbal Academy's got a new course that's coming out. It's not out yet, but the registration is going to be next month. And so if you're interested in mushrooms, I'm going to take the course. I am so excited about this. I'm going to talk more about it. But I think if I remember what the email said, I looked at it because I'm an affiliate for them, and so I'm going to promote the course. I'm an herbalist, so, you know, of course I have people like that I do that for. I try to keep all my stuff that I'm an affiliate for, either things that I'm just really interested in or stuff that reflects herbalism and witchcraft and metaphysical things and stuff like that. So wellness and, you know, that kind of stuff. Some of it isn't, but that's just a small part of it. The rest of it's all focused on that kind of stuff. So, you know, if you go over to the blog and you see the affiliate section there, you'll see all of you can look at all of them. I have them in categories, you know, for easy perusal. But in any event, plus there's links below this video and stuff to them. But so if you see one that you want to shop at or whatever, if you click on one of those links, then I get a commission if you buy something. So that would be lovely, and I would thank you so much for that. I'm just doing it to monetize the blog a little and to kind of offset some of my expenses because I do have them. It'd be nice to think that it's free to just have a blog. It's not. So I don't know. So I figure this way I can do it passively. If people want to do it, that's fine. If they don't, they don't. So in any event, but watch for that. If you're interested in learning about mushrooms, I think there's 20 different ones we're going to learn about. And so pay attention to that. It's going to be coming up. I'm going to put something down below here. Also, my books, I've got two of them. The first one I did, Confessions of a Back Porch Herbalist, I've done the second edition to that. And that's not on Amazon this time. That's over on, I did it in Draft to Digital, and they have a wider platform of booksellers. And so you'll find that one on Rakuten Kobo. Kobo is a Canadian site. That's very cool. You'll also find it on Barnes & Noble and Apple Books. Scrib, I don't know if Scrib picked that one up yet, though. I don't think so. I'll have to look. Biblioteca did, but I still publishing onto Scrib, so they're probably still looking at it, see if they want to have that over there. Cannabis and all. I mean, I don't know. I'm a Scrib member, so I don't know. If you don't have a Scribd account, you should. It's excellent. But anyway, there's that one, but the newest one is Shifting Perception, and that's a manual. Just sort of, it talks about a lot of the stuff I talk about here, about who we are as source presence and how we shift our perception away from the ego and into spirit awareness, higher self-awareness, and moving into that place and trying to function from that perspective, that level of perception. There's affirmations, there's a lot of visualizations in the book, or the manual or guidebook or whatever you want to call it. And that again is over, it's on Scribd and also Apple and Barnes & Noble and Kobo and all that. If you click on the link below this video, or you go to the new books section that's stickied at the top of the blog there at Stepping Aside now, it's going to tell you, it'll give you the links to go to that particular books to read page, and then it'll show icons of the different booksellers, and you can just click on the one you want to get it from. But in any event, I've been kind of fiddling around with that thing for a while, and it finally took the form I wanted it to. I don't think we need to overdo it on the visualizations. I present visualizations, one for each type of experience that I think that we need to transmute, but they're general enough that you can alter them any way you want to, whatever works, because the visualization has got to be yours. You can start with someone else's, but eventually you find yourself doing something else, with it, and that's great. That's the whole point of it. It's a way for you to structure that transition however that makes sense to you, to move away from an ego reaction and one that's more higher self-based. So in any event, that's what that's about. So if you want to check those out, I'd love you to do that. And any of the other books I've written, you'll find links to them also on the side panel. You'll find little pictures of them. They're on my blog. Shifting Perceptions is the 8th book. So I've been doing this, I don't know, they just keep coming out. So anyway, it started with Confessions of a Back Porch Herbalist, and that talks about my healing with cannabis and traditional herbs and going into remission from severe rheumatoid arthritis. So healing is possible. You just have to think outside the box, maybe. So anyway, I guess that's it. That's all I need to tell you about, I think. Stay safe from the virus. Again, take precautions. Wash your hands a whole bunch. If someone's coughing, get away from them. Stay home if you have to. Hunker down. We're going to figure this out, and we're all going to learn something from it. So in any event, thank you so much for stopping by. Do check out the blog, check out the Patreon page, check out the new books, shameless self-promotion. In any event, have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.